Welcome to the second part of the video guide for submitting your qualified person's application. In the previous video, we discussed how to properly complete and submit your application, and for this video, we will be taking a look at the 3 different possibilities after your application has been submitted. Along with talking about the statuses, we will be taking a look at the emails we will receive from the ministry and our individual dashboard for each single status. Once submitted, your application can be accepted, have terms and conditions imposed, or be rejected. To begin, we will be taking a look at the rejected case and then move on to have terms and conditions imposed, and then finally we will look at an accepted application. To begin, I'll go ahead and open up my email to find that there's been an email received from the qualified person reviewer. We're going to go ahead and open up that email and read its contents. So it reads, "This email is written notice that the minister intends to refuse to accept your application to be designated as a qualified person due to the following reasons. The education provided was not applicable to the selected chapter." Under that, it states that you have the opportunity to make written representation to the minister within 30 days as to why the intended actions should not be taken. Please submit your written representation documentation to SAS Code Secretariat at gov.sk.ca. So in this email, we are made aware that the minister intends to refuse our application. However, we do have the option of sending an email to the email provided here with written representation as to why they should not take this step for refusing me because my education was not applicable to the selected chapter. However, let's assume that you were not able to make that representation and your education truly did not apply to the selected chapter. From there, we would navigate to the online services login page and go ahead and log into our account. Once again, we will be selecting individual and then selecting our identity. As we can see, once we're navigated to our dashboard, the status on our application to be designated as a qualified person has been rejected. And this is all that you're going to be seeing if your application has been rejected. There's no certificate, there's no email other than the one that the qualified person reviewer had sent you to look at. Next up, we'll be taking a look at what happens if your application has terms and conditions. For the second status, intent to impose terms and conditions, we'll be once again starting at our email. We'll notice that we have an email from the qualified person reviewer, so we'll go ahead and open that up. And this time it reads, "The Ministry of Environment is providing written notice that the minister intends to impose the following terms and conditions." And those are, you will only be able to use your qualified person designation for this particular project. Let's assume that in the notes portion of my application, I had written that I wanted this designation so my company could complete its current project. The ministry had taken note of this and decided to give me my designation on the condition that I would only use it for this project. Now, if you hadn't done something like that and the ministry decides to impose terms and conditions and you're not happy with those terms and conditions, you can always make written representation to the minister within 30 days of receiving this email as to why the intended action should not be taken. However, when you're submitting this written documentation, please send it to SAS Code Secretariat at gov.sk.ca. If you choose to accept these terms and conditions, you can simply go ahead and reply directly to this email so that we can finalize our acceptance. So I'll go ahead and I'll reply to this email saying that I will accept the terms and conditions listed below and send the email away. So the next thing we'll need to do is take a look at our online account and see what the status of our application is online. So we'll go ahead and log in and select ourselves as an individual. So once we get to our dashboard, we see that the status for our application is under review. This is because the ministry has not fully accepted our application as of yet. Since we just sent them the email in reply saying that we do accept their terms and conditions, we're going to have to wait a bit longer before they receive that email and then finalize your qualified person designation. So we'll go ahead and wait for that. So we'll go ahead and navigate back to our email to notice that there's an email from the qualified person reviewer again. We'll go ahead and select that email, and it reads, "This email is to inform you that the minister has accepted your application for qualified person. The designation number is 10002019. Now this is the same as your transaction number when you submitted your application. Then it says go to the dashboard to view and print your permit by clicking the date approved." So we'll go ahead and navigate our way back to our dashboard. So we'll notice now the status for our application is completed and no longer under review. This is because the ministry received your email indicating that you would accept the terms and conditions and finalized your application. A few other things to note is that the date completed has now been populated, and just like the date submitted, we can click on this to receive a document. This document will be our certification for qualified persons. As you can see, it'll say Qualified Person Designation Certificate. This is to certify that Test A T1, this would be your name, is designated as a qualified person in accordance with the Environmental Management Protection Act 2010, as required by the Hydrostatic Testing Chapter. Remember, this is the chapter that we had applied for of the Saskatchewan Environmental Code. And then we'll see that we have the date issued and the date of expiry. We have our designation number as well, and then the individual that was acting on behalf of the Ministry of Environment for when approving this application. If we scroll down to the second page, we'll notice that there are appended conditions, and since we had accepted this condition, it will be listed on the certificate. If at any point in this application process we had chose not to accept the terms and conditions imposed, it would simply play out like the rejected status. Our application would be rejected and there would be no date completed for us to click on for our certificate. So now we've covered rejected and intent to impose terms and conditions. For the last portion, we'll be looking at what an accepted application looks like. So for the final part of this video, the accepted status, we'll once again start at our email. And we'll realize again that we have an email from the qualified person reviewer. We'll go ahead and open this email. And the email reads, "This email is to inform you that the minister has accepted your application for qualified person submitted to the Ministry of Environment on this date. The designation number is this." And then go to the dashboard to view and print your permit by clicking on the date completed. So we'll go ahead and navigate our way to the online services login page and then go ahead and log on to our account. So once logged in, we'll select individual as our identity. As we can see, once on our dashboard, the status for our application to be designated as a qualified person is completed. And just like last time, we'll notice that the date completed is populated and a clickable field. So we'll go ahead and click on it, and it'll open up a PDF of our qualified person designation certificate. So for this certificate, all the information and all the text provided on the first page is going to be exactly the same as if our application had terms and conditions imposed upon it. However, if we scroll down to the second page, we'll notice that in the appended conditions section, it'll state that no conditions were imposed. This is the one thing that will separate an approved qualified person designation to a qualified person designation that was approved with terms and conditions. Everything else will be as is. You'll have the date issued, the date of expiry, the designation number, and the individual that was acting on behalf of the ministry. So that is all for the second part of this video, in which we talked about the different routes that your application can take once submitted. And those were rejected, intent to impose terms and conditions, and accepted as well. Once again, if you have any questions that you would like to ask about the qualified person application, or if you need help with your application, feel free to contact SAS Code Secretariat at gov.sk.ca or call the RBR and Code Management Branch at 306-787-9197.